Well, the rumor mill is certainly still going in regards to who could be another player added to the roster for Duke men's basketball. We've got thoughts on this, and we'll discuss all throughout today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us on this Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, as Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on in the world of Duke basketball and Duke athletics. A fun show due for you here today with our pal Kevin Connelly, who's the site expert for Ballor Durham. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube. Hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share this video with your friends, and comment down below. We read the comment section each and every week. I see people so excited on days that Kevin Connelly stops by, which makes both of us feel great. And so we've got things to discuss here on the program with Duke. Still kind of looking for that additional player to add to this year's roster, with 3 open scholarships still left to go. So here he is, Kevin Connelly, with us. And Kevin, how are you, my friend?
I'm good, JJ. How about you?
Doing very well. Thank you for asking. I'm ready for some news, man. We've been kind of playing the waiting game once again for a little while in regards to this Duke roster.
Yeah, you get those 2 transfers, I think, in a 24, 48-hour period, in Malik Brown and Mason Gillis. And it's been quiet since then. Players have come and gone. Nothing has been official yet, but it seems like they could be on the verge of a possible another commitment.
Yeah, players had to be in the transfer portal by May 1st, including grad transfers, unless, of course, their coach left, and then they've got a 30-day extension on that. But for the most part, we know who is out there. I think a lot of people were asking this question, and we hadn't really touched on this angle, Kevin, but it'd be one thing for a coaching staff to possibly hold tight for a little while, because in some regards, you don't want to add somebody, and then all of a sudden, a week later, a greater player enters the transfer portal that really would have been a better fit, or somebody that you kind of wanted. Now that it's all closed, you're probably better off.
Yeah, I think that was the mentality around a lot of programs going back into mid-April. But now it's, all right, who's ever in there, you got to go get them. Because really no one else is going in there unless it wouldn't be technically considered a transfer, but a player could still decommit and request out of their national letter of intent and become available that way, even here after May 1st, because technically they don't go into the transfer portal. I don't envision that happening with a lot of players around the country, especially those upper echelon high school prospects. So yeah, anyone who's in the transfer portal now, no one else is going to enter. And now it's just trying to reel in those last couple of players to fill out the Duke roster.
And it looks as though guard is what Duke is looking for. Sion James, a name that was brought up towards the end of last week. There are reports out there that he was actually on campus visiting with the staff. He comes by way of Tulane, but exits the weekend without committing to Duke basketball. Worth noting, he's also right now in the NBA draft process, although he was not invited to either combine. So likely the best decision to be made would be to go back and play college basketball. And then if you're Sion James, you're trying to figure out where exactly that would be. So let's talk about him for a moment, Kevin. What did you think when his name popped up on the radar?
Well, I thought it made sense. And you look at the other 2 transfers in Malik Brown and Mason Gillis, and right, they're not the biggest names that are out there. And I think that's something that Duke certainly needs. They're not needing that big name. And as we mentioned in weeks prior, they're not looking for that guy to take 15 to 20 shots per game, because they have a lot of guys on the floor that are going to command the ball and command shots. You look at James, averaged 14 points per game, also a good rebounder at 6'6", just under 6 rebounds per game. You look at a little bit deeper into the numbers and the shooting numbers. 38% three-point shooter. Has struggled at the free throw line, although not the most attempts, right under 70%, and shoots about 50% from the floor. So you're lining up as a guy who hopefully can take care of the basketball if needed to. A 3-and-D guy. Feels like that's really the focal point right now of this Duke team. Malik Brown, obviously a center. Mason Gillis, a 3-and-D guy. So John Shire has a clear type of player he's trying to recruit out of the transfer portal. And I think Zion James could be a good fit at Duke.
I'd love to see it. I'd love, honestly, just to get another player kind of added to the fold for this Duke basketball team, and what he's able to do with his versatility would be great. Whole lot of size, man. I mean, this team is so big and physical. You mentioned Caleb Foster and Tyrese Proctor already being 6'5", and then here comes a guard that's 6'6". Duke's kind of physical dominance is going to be noticed as soon as they step on the floor for every single game this upcoming season.
Yeah, this team's going to be intimidating, even if you do add Zion James. It's like you go back to when you played elementary school basketball or baseball or whatever, and you looked at the other team and you really didn't know much, and you're like, oh, man, those guys are big. Like, we're in trouble. Like, that's kind of the image I'm getting right now of this Duke team. You come off the bus, you enter into the arena, and you have all these guys that are 6'5", 6'6", and going all the way up to, 7'2"?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, man, we might be in trouble here. That's the kind of like image I'm picturing with the Duke team walking into an arena and their opponent seeing them.
Got the scholarship chart back up on the screen. If you're watching with us on YouTube, you see those 3 open scholarships. I did that, though, for people to remind themselves of all the players right now on the roster to see, these guys aren't kidding. It's a really big lineup that Duke's got out there on the wings, even some kind of oversized wings for Duke basketball in terms of what you're used to seeing and that sort of thing. But I think this freshman class, we talk a lot about the big players in the middle with Common and Pat and Ngaba coming back from an injury. But I think the wings for the Blue Devils between Darren Harris and Isaiah Evans, Connelly, I think those guys are going to be able to make an impact given their size. And coming in as a freshman, sometimes that'll hold you back a little bit. But if your body is kind of already built, you're going to be in a better spot.
Yeah, exactly. Now with those freshmen, I think like an Isaiah Evans, he still has room to work in terms of getting stronger and filling out in his frame. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really solid defensive team. Let me say, on paper, this is going to be a really solid, dominant defensive team. And obviously they have their offensive firepower with guys who could shoot, who could dribble, who could pass, who could score inside, score outside, mid-range, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there is a lot of pressure on John Shire this offseason to get the right pieces that fit in the transfer portal. I think he's doing a good job still with 3 open scholarships, not being overly aggressive, still being patient and taking what's coming to him in the transfer portal because obviously there's going to be a lot of eyes on everything this Duke team does just because of the presence of Cooper Flagg and the attention he commands both on and off the floor.
Excited to see this team continue to be put together. We've got more names that are possibly linked to this Duke basketball squad and other things to talk about after we take our first time out here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything that you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or you get your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home the huge win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. Let's keep it moving here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside our pal Kevin Connelly, site expert for Ballor Durham. As Duke goes into the transfer portal, Kevin, I want to talk a little bit more about that guard spot. Zion James from Tulane, visits recently. Chaz Lanier, another name that's kind of been linked to the Blue Devils, that guard out of North Florida who stands 6'4", so still a pretty good size to him, 19 points a game scorer. But when you look at kind of the overall rankings that these recruiting sites will make, the players that Duke is targeting aren't necessarily towards the top of the class and that sort of thing. Do you make anything of that, Kevin?
No, I don't. And I don't want to keep harping on the same topic here or what I'm trying to convey, but that's the type of players Duke they're looking for. They're looking for the role players. They're not looking for the big names in the portal because they already have the big names on the roster. So yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit more time for these other scholarships to be filled, just because you are diving deeper into the transfer portal and into names and film. It's not like, oh man, here's Norchad Omier from Miami who's in the portal. We have a vacancy at power forward or center. Like, we're going right after him. No questions asked. It's going to take a little bit of time, and the coaching staff needs to get in the film work and put the tape on of some of these guys and try and envision how they mesh with the rest of the roster, and also wanting to get their mentality on, okay, a player like Chaz Lanier, averaged 20 points per game at North Florida, how are you going to feel getting a maximum 15 to 17 minutes per game, then probably north of 25 to 30 per game at North Florida? So that's something that they also have to look into. So yeah, it's going to take some time to try and find the absolute right fits in the portal.
Yeah, and then the jump that these players are going to be making, I think Chaz Lanier is going to be able to score wherever he goes, but playing in the A-Sun is a little bit different than playing in the ACC. And so for the Duke basketball team, we're talking a lot about the need of another guard. Obviously, with Proctor and Foster in the fold, you feel good there, but a ball handler is just so critical, Kevin, because, it's pretty obvious. We saw our fair share of injuries to the Duke basketball team. Those things happen throughout the course of a season, so adding depth is always an important thing to do.
Well, yeah, and you need 4 guards to win. Now, those 4 guards aren't all going to play 27 minutes per game, but you have your 2 stars in Proctor and Foster, and then you need depth behind them. You need those 3 to 4 guards in order to be successful, because you just can't put every single thing on the plate of those 2 guards that are returning for Duke. So yeah, that's why it's important to add at least 1, probably 2 more guards.
There are 3 scholarships open. Duke continues hosting visitors, so there is clearly a push to be made to add players to this roster, right? I don't think we're going to see a world in which Duke hands 3 walk-ons a scholarship like they did this past season for Spencer Hubbard, and they've been known to do throughout the course of Duke basketball. I think it's probably likely that not 3 high-level scholarship players join the roster. I think there will be an opportunity for some walk-on players to earn that scholarship money for the Duke basketball program. However, I do think at least 1 more player is going to be joining into the fold. So with that kind of framework there, Kevin, and looking at the need for a guard, I'm trying to figure out the best way I want to word this question, but is there any point in which this goes on for long enough that maybe Duke kind of regrets the fact that they're not going to get Jeremy Roach back for another season? Or is the roster built in a way in which it just really doesn't make much sense? Because to your point a little bit earlier, you got Cooper Flagg, man. You got some other kind of high-level star power to the squad, and I don't know that that's the type of player that you're looking for.
You're asking the tough questions here, Jake. Do I think they'll regret not having Jeremy Roach on the roster?
If this continues to go on for a while. If we're just like, man, nobody wants to come and join the team.
No. I'm going to say no, because that was an open line of communication, and John Shire really telling Jeremy Roach the team's plans, and not that he didn't factor into those plans, but you get what I'm saying. Like, his time at Duke really had come to an end. I don't think this is going to be a case like it was last year when they were looking for a center, and when they had Caden Shedrick And then I'm forgetting the name. I think he ended up at TCU, but he couldn't get in because of academic reasons that his credits didn't transfer over. Ernest Uday, I think, from Kansas. And he ended
I
up
was
TCU.
blanking on the name for a minute, but that's it.
It'll come to me. Just sometimes you got to give me a second. It'll come to me. And I think they might have had a couple others in the fold that just didn't materialize. So I don't think that's going to be the case this year with a guard spot. I think if you do get late enough in the transfer portal and the dam's starting to evaporate, water starting to come out of the river, I think you'll find just a guard. It's like, hey, you want to come play 10 minutes a game for Duke basketball? Yeah, sure. And so I think you will. There's enough guards in the portal that I think you will be able to get one. So no, I don't think at some point there's going to be any regret for not having Jeremy Roach. Now, from the fan base, I can't control what they're going to say.
Yeah.
If Tyrese Proctor has a 5 to 7 game stretch where he doesn't play his best basketball, or Caleb Foster the same thing, like, oh man, why did we not keep Jeremy Roach instead of these guys? I do think that could be a topic of conversation, but in terms of the coaching staff, I don't think that's going to be a major regret for them.
Kevin, we wouldn't be fanatics if we weren't having those type of conversations. So I'm sure we'll hear plenty of it. Sound off in the comments down below how you feel about that question in regards to if this continues to go on for a while. Do you start to feel any regret that Roach is not in the mix for the Duke basketball team? I will say, again, back to Sion James from Tulane, visits this past weekend. Several recruiting services have him with crystal ball predictions to go to Duke. However, again, he is still in the NBA draft process, not being invited to either combine, though, the high-level NBA draft combine, and then there's a G League select combine as well. He was not invited to either of those. Would make you think maybe he's suited to come back and play some more college basketball. And then Chaz Lanier, the other name from North Florida, to be on the lookout for. If any other names start to pop up, you know that Kevin's got to have some words over on Ballor Durham about it. We'll keep you updated here on Locked On Blue Devils and more. All right, there's another game that's been added to the Duke basketball schedule. I want to talk a little bit about that and some other news and notes as we continue to move forward here on this Wednesday episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. I got to pause to tell you about one of my favorite games as of late. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes that you can unlock. And there's so much to get, from unique stickers that you can trade with your friend to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every single day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, a ton of their own unique mini games. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on! Monopoly Go is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Let's talk about Yahoo Finance as well here today. Yahoo Finance, for more than 25 years, has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data that you need in one place. They're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor. It's yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we've got our final few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson, joined today by Kevin Connelly, the site expert for Ballor Durham. What is Ballor Durham, Kevin? Promote your work, if you will.
Well, we're a website that covers everything about Duke athletics, specifically Duke basketball. So we're on top of everything here in the offseason. We talked about the transfer portal. NBA playoffs going on as well, schedule news that comes out, and anything in between, obviously recruiting as well. So come give us a read every single day over at balldurham.com, and then you can follow us on social media at ball_Durham.
All right, so last week we were on the program. We were doing fill in the blanks together, Kevin, and we were talking about that non-conference schedule for the Duke Blue Devils. Mailbag Monday this week, we had another non-conference question that was asked, and John Rothstein from CBS Sports and some other folks out there have reported some news that Duke is nearing a deal to play their annual Madison Square Garden game, what we deem Cameron North, against Illinois, the Fighting Illini, a really good program who made a deep NCAA tournament run this season. Once again, they had several players enter the transfer portal themselves, but if recent years are any indicator, likely going to be another good squad coming up. How did you see this new? How did it sit with you when you saw that Illinois would be a team on the schedule for the Blue Devils?
I think it's a quality opponent. The reigning Big Ten tournament champions, like you said, made a deep run to the NCAA tournament, all the way down to the Elite Eight before they ran into the eventual national champion Connecticut Huskies, and found out what that buzzsaw is like.
It's tough for everybody.
Yeah. I think this pretty much puts a cap on the major power conference teams in the non-conference schedule for Duke. So they now have 5 big-time games. You have the road game against Arizona. You have Kentucky in the Champions Classic. You have Kansas in a neutral site out in Las Vegas. You have Illinois at Madison Square Garden. And then you also have the SEC ACC Challenge in Durham inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. So out of the 11 non-conference games Duke plays, that's 5 big ones. Remember last year we were hoping that they were going to add one more big one. They only played 4 when you looked at the games against Michigan State, Arizona, Arkansas, and then Baylor. We were like, it would have been great if they could get one more big-time game in there. Well, they did it this year. And so they have 5, and then I would imagine the 6 will be filled with those mid-major teams. I know one hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's rumored to be Maine in the season opener in Durham. Cooper Flagg, his mother played for Maine. He's from Maine, so that'd be kind of cool if that comes to fruition on opening night. And the other thing is that Duke is not taking part this year in the $1 million NIL tournament out in Las Vegas. I think there's just too many question marks around it. 7 of the 8 teams came out in the field yesterday. They got some good teams. Like Rutgers is going to be a high-end team this year with a couple of 5-star freshmen. But nothing like they didn't get any Dukes or Carolinas, Kansas,
Alabama
Kentucky.
will be in the fold. I know.
Yeah, Alabama's there, Houston's there, so they do have some good teams. But like the Blue Bloods, that I guess they were hoping to reel in, didn't go. And there's a lot of commitment. If you play, it's got to be an X amount of years. You have to play in the event, and then next year I think they're opening it up from 8 to 16 teams. So probably the best that Duke sits this one out. See how it progresses this year. See if it's all compliant with NCAA regulations. I mean, you can't technically pay a team $1 million for playing in an event. I know there's some workarounds that they have. I don't have all the details, but Duke's not playing in that this year. So I think the only thing left to figure out in the non-conference schedule is who the other mid-majors are going to be on the slate. Because I think these 5 major teams on the non-conference schedule is pretty much set.
And also, as we've seen in recent years, those games are kind of the last ones to be put together, right? You really want to get your big premier games on the schedule, and then you could start reaching out to the likes of a Maine if you'd like for them to come to Cameron and play against the Blue Devils there. Obviously, there will be the in-state conversations as well with a school like Charlotte or Queens that have been on the schedule in recent years. A lot of North Carolina schools at that D1 level that not quite at the Power 5 level that Duke could put on their schedule. It's been a little while since we've seen the Blue Devils in like a Maui Invitational or a Battle for Atlantis type setting over the Thanksgiving holiday. When you look at those premier Feast Week tournaments, Kevin, and if you start to think about it, having that home and home with Arizona, right, is just another game added to your non-conference schedule. And in some ways, I guess that makes it more difficult to be featured in some of those premier tournaments. Not even this NIL one, like ones that we've seen forever in regards to Maui and the Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah, I mean, the only one we've seen since John Shire's taken over as the head coach, now granted it's only 2 years, was the Phil Knight Invitational up in Portland, Oregon in his first year. And that was, I think, something that Duke had been booked in since Mike Krzyzewski was the head coach. And obviously a bunch of teams that are sponsored by Nike got in and got to play in those tournaments. And there were so many teams, they had to split it into 2 separate tournaments. So that was the last time Duke was in one of those Feast Week tournaments. And I don't know if it's like not in the scheduling philosophy of John Shire to get in those events. I think he does prefer home and homes more than these tournaments. Obviously, that was the complete opposite of Coach K. He would rather get in these tournaments because he said playing these teams on a neutral floor ultimately prepares you for the NCAA tournament. But John Shire's doing the same thing. Like, you get Kentucky on a neutral floor. You are going out to Las Vegas right around the same time as that NIL tournament to play Kansas in a game. Illinois at the Garden. Obviously, they'll probably travel well up to Madison Square Garden. Obviously, everyone knows Duke fans can fill that place as well. So I'm a fan of this non-conference schedule. Out of the 5 big games, you get 1 at home in the SEC ACC Challenge, which I think teams, it's not confirmed, but teams people are talking about. A rematch with Arkansas now with John Calipari as their head coach. Alabama is a team that's been rumored. Obviously, you throw in Tennessee as well, typically a upper echelon team in the SEC. So those are 3 teams that I think people are chatting a lot about the potential for them coming to Duke to play. And then the road game against Arizona. So you get your mix of a home game, a road game, and then 3 neutral site games in your 5 big non-conference games.
Some research for people. It wasn't until June 28th last season, June 28th, 2023, is when ESPN announced the pairings for the SEC ACC Challenge. So I guess our message there, Kevin, is don't be surprised if it does take a little while to officially know who's going to be on the schedule for Duke.
Yeah, typically those conference challenges, whether it be in the ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big East, there's no more Pac-12 anymore, Big 12, they typically get announced the early to mid portions of the summer. So, you can hold out to see who officially that opponent's going to be until the later summer days.
That's right. Great stuff as always, Kevin. Hopefully we get a commitment from this Duke basketball team as of late. I know that you'll be following everything over at Ballor Durham. The time is certainly greatly appreciated, and we'll do this again sometime soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly again from Ballor Durham at Kevin Connelly24 on X. Also check out at Ball_Durham. That's going to do it for our show here today. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.